Hello and welcome to the Denver Homes Market Report. Here we are at episode 37. This is Ricky.schoonover of Mode Real Estate. And I want to thank you for joining me each week as we dive into all sorts of topics related to real estate here in and around our mile-high city of Denver. So I had a couple of deals close this last week. And let me tell you, that was a journey. However, I would not trade it for the world. There is nothing like working for 5 months on a large multi-transaction deal when all those highs and lows and with the ebbs and flows, the laughs and the tears, all finally culminate. When you are buying one home and then selling another, that script is actually flipped. You really sell your home first. Why? Well, because you usually need the money from the sale of your current home in order to leverage your buying power on your new home. Now, I know there are bridge loans out there, and those might work for some people, who have more income than their current financial, situation calls for. However, if you have that kind of financial situation, you probably don't really need the loan in the first place. When you find yourself in that favorable financial situation, loans are not necessarily needed, but they end up being excellent tools. You can use loans solely so you can leave your money in other investments and then borrow at the much lower rates that come with your primary residence, which right now are hovering right around 2.75%. So even if you have the money to pull out of your other investments in order to buy your home, why? You are probably making more than double the return on your investment elsewhere. So leave that money working for you. Let the banks loan at the more favorable primary residence mortgage rates. So yes, there are creative ways to finance your home. And for some people who have the income and credit, they may qualify for that bridge loan, where you can then borrow money upfront to buy your new home, then pay back that bridge loan once your home sells. Now, these are risky and they are not cheap, and certainly not for the masses. So there is another option. There are many companies who will promise they will pay you cash, oftentimes sight unseen. You can get your money and move on. However, just think about that logically. Unless your house is really not even marketable to the general public, it's in such poor condition that a buyer could not even get a loan on the property, then sure, selling to a cash offer may be your way out of a failing house. However, those sight unseen cash offers are often not sight unseen. You've got to read the fine print. The folks doing these types of deals know what to look for, and they have a high probability of making money off of your hard-earned equity. This brings us to what is often your best option. You own your home, you've been making your payments, and the market has overall been climbing, and now you have some equity to work with. You can now sell this home and then go buy your new home. So here is where I come in as an experienced realtor, because I know the delicate balance of selling your home that you're in now while simultaneously buying your new home. Is there risk? Yes, of course. There are all sorts of landmines involved with these types of transactions. However, with the right broker, I can help you navigate that minefield and hopefully avoid stepping on one of them. Can I promise you that everything is going to go as planned? Of course not. But I will promise you I'll work diligently as your advocate and using my 17 plus years experience to help you to a successful transaction, or in this case, transactions. There are a couple really important aspects where no doubt there are risks involved. And in my most recent situation, my sellers had lived in their home for almost 11 years. And when they bought the home, there were some issues that they thought had been remedied before they moved in. However, over the past 11 years, the work that had not been done, or at least not been done properly 11 years ago, was starting to show. So first things first, we had a few floors to level out, some pin-tuck brickwork to get done, and some negative grading, which was in dire need of being addressed. So we worked with my team of contractors to get all that done. Then, of course, getting an offer was pretty easy, and being completely transparent and letting the potential buyers know that the house had needed some structural work in the past and that some of that work was not properly done until recently. We had to find the right buyer, someone who understood and accepted the risk and was interested in owning this home. Then, of course, that same buyer needs to understand my sellers also need to find their new home before they can actually sell their home to them. So, after getting their current home under contract and through the inspections and resolving whatever the issues that the buyer and seller could agree upon, in order to satisfy the buyer and compel them to commit to the home in its current condition. Only then was it time to go look at homes in person. I mean, you are really wasting your time if you go look at homes before you are at this point in this type of a buy-sell situation. No seller in their right mind would even consider an offer where you told them you had to sell your current home first and you had not even put yours on the market yet. Or that it was on the market, but you were not under contract and at least past inspection contingencies. There are just too many factors at that point that could go wrong on your side of the deal. You must even get past your inspection period. You still have your appraisal and your loan contingencies in place. However, you may get lucky and find a seller willing to accept your offer once you're done with inspections. You might be asking yourself, what's the big deal? I mean, my house is great. I can sell that house in a weekend. That all may be true. However, people don't always realize how damaging and potentially costly it can be if you either launch your marketing suite haphazardly, or worse yet, you accept an offer only to find out your buyer backs out on you. There then becomes this stigma. And from that point forward, if you're lucky enough to keep your sellers motivated to sell, then you relaunch. And every single buyer asks the same question. Okay, we know it was under contract. It fell out of contract. What's wrong with the house? Why did the buyers back out? And, of course, it's a fair question. And full disclosure, honesty, and transparency are a must. There are all kinds of reasons that a deal may not get to the closing table. Most often, it's a buyer who has not been ready emotionally or had not done their homework with their lender yet. However, if you were ever told, well, the buyer's financing fell through, I'd question that answer, because a good broker who is representing you in the sale of your home will follow up and ask a series of questions of the potential buyer's lender before they ever present the offer to you for consideration. We must do that first so that we can coach you on where the buyer is in their process of financing. Now, there are many reasons a lender may or may not issue the loan. Many people don't realize that, even all the way up until that lender issues those magic words, clear to close. And even in rare cases, even after clear to close, something could still throw a wrench in things. But that's typically just days before the deal is closed. And to be honest, Once the appraisal contingency is passed, the vast majority of loans will go on to close. But there is always that risk that something comes up and the lender is not able to issue that loan. So, let's just say everything goes perfectly. You find your buyer, you resolve any inspection issues, and everyone decides to move forward. So now it's time for you to go out and start looking at your new home. Let's say for today's discussion, even that part goes perfect. You find your dream home and the seller accepts your offer, even though it's contingent upon you actually selling your current home first. Now keep in mind, you have now been under contract on your current home for almost 2 weeks now. I mean, you have had the inspections and agreed to any repairs. Most standard purchase contracts are about 30 days. And your lender is likely going to need at least 20 days. And that's totally dependent upon the appraisal. If they can get that done within 15 days, so then they have time to get that package into final loan approval and get those magic words clear to close. Then all that data gets crunched with your title company who's handling the closing. So then you can either wire your funds or get them a cashier's check. There are so many moving parts to get you to the closing table. And in fact, you'll be going to 2 different closing tables. You need to first close with your buyers. Guess what? Once you sign, your house must be already empty and ready to hand over the keys to those buyers. That very minute that the funds are transferred and the deed is signed, the buyers want the keys to their new house. So there is a period of time where not only are you homeless, but your house is now empty and all your worldly possessions would have needed to have been cleared out ahead of time. So storing all your personal property somewhere during that last week or so in this process so you can close on your old home. Then you need to get the funds wired directly to the next title company who will be handling the closing on your new home. You can then meet with them, sign your loan docs, and finally get the keys to the home you are buying. You really need someone in your corner who has done this over and over and can keep you one step ahead of the schedule. It's very easy for one little piece to not be thought of, which can end up in a disaster, or at the very least, some backflips in order to get you back on track. It's really a surreal feeling to close on your old home, all your stuff being stored somewhere, and you are indeed homeless for a time there. And trying to do all that in one day is kind of crazy. It can be done. There is just no room for error. And quite frankly, much of the process you nor your realtor have much control over. So we just all hope that everything falls into place. However, with all that, you go through all that trouble, you retain your equity. You are not trying to bridge another loan where you risk getting stuck paying 2 mortgages for a period of time. You don't end up selling out to a cash offer where they then basically take all your hard-earned equity instead of selling to a company who has the money to sit on your property for a month or 2 and then sell it for a huge profit. Many times, they don't even do anything to your house to improve it. They simply just list it and sell it and keep what would have been your profits. There is one more thing we could talk about, and that is a seller rent back, or what officially is called a post-occupancy agreement. This is where you actually close on your new home with your new buyers. However, you remain in your home. You become a tenant for a number of days. These are common, but they are a conversation you need to be having with your realtor even before you list your home. And for sure, with the new potential buyers before they even consider writing you an offer. So there needs to be verbiage in the listing making potential buyers aware of this possible need from you as a seller Now, does this make your home less valuable? The simple answer is maybe. It really depends on who is interested in buying your home and what kind of flexibility they have in their current living situation, and if they can accommodate. So a qualified buyer may choose not to offer on your particular home and instead offer on another home where the seller is not looking for a rent back. Does that mean you won't get another person to come along who is willing to buy the home and agree to the rent back? Not necessarily. And in fact, I'd say in most cases, you'll find the right buyer. It just may take a little bit more time and patience for that right buyer to come along. All right, so I know today's podcast was a bit complicated. That was by design. Selling your house while trying to buy your new house is no place where you want to be dealing with a for sale by owner, some part-time person who's doing real estate as their side hustle. You really need a professional who knows their stuff inside and out. Give me a call, 720-688-5110. Let's discuss your situation. Once again, this is Ricky Schoonover of Mode Real Estate. Please visit my website for more information, www.denverhomesmarket.com. Be safe out there. I hope you'll tune in next week.